Hey, are you here? Uh-huh. It's the Paul Leslie Hour with a response to President Donald J. Trump's proposal of no tax on tips. Have you heard about it? So, what are you thinking, Paulie? What says you?
It was at a time when I didn't see any options. That's when a friend suggested that I could try to work at the restaurant where he was recently hired. At least I'd get some cash flow. If there has ever been a path that helped lift me out of near hopelessness and constantly being broke, it was getting a job where I could make tips. I never saw myself as a waiter, but it clicked. After a little while, I was consistently beating all of my peers in sales, night after night. Hate to brag. I think about the many inspiring co-workers I had. So many had moved to the city to be actors or musicians, and some wanted to start businesses. So many, though, were just trying to pay the rent and put food on the table for their kids. Yes, there were a lot of single mothers, which is undoubtedly a big social problem. Women are 2/3 of tipped workers. In fact, more single mothers earn a living that way than any other. Getting tips? It would not be an exaggeration to say that it changed my life. It's already a hard way to earn, but along the way there was a shift that took place. Eventually, management let us know that there were increased requirements from the IRS, and every penny was to be accounted for. The IRS saw tipped workers as a new target. Keep in mind, it's not just servers who rely on gratuity. It's the bartender who makes your martini, the girl who prepares your usual coffee order. There's the lawn maintenance workers, pizza and Chinese takeout delivery drivers, masseurs, barbers, hairstylists, Uber and taxi drivers. All of them depend on tips to make it. Where these workers could make a few bucks, the IRS demanded what they saw as theirs. I was making $2.13 per hour, which I was in theory going to get on my paycheck, and the tips I took home as cash. However, to pay the taxes, my paychecks always came to zero. Every paycheck I ever got said $0.00, which isn't that uncommon. The IRS made sure that they always got something up front. That wasn't so bad, but the trouble came that first April. The wallop I felt from the IRS rippled for a long time. The IRS wanted far more than I had. Was I alone? Not hardly. I recall hearing about trips canceled, appointments having to wait, and more serious things, business plans thwarted, and life changes put on hold. The friend who got me the job lamented about how if it were not for the tax burden we all incurred, we'd be that much more able to do something with power or gravitas. It was like being hobbled. In future years, I did my best to save for that annual day where you would find out how bad it was going to be. It was always crushing. I recall one single mother I worked with. Such a sweet girl. She wanted to put a deposit on a nicer apartment and hopefully get her son and herself out of a bad situation. We'll see, she said. It was largely dependent on how much she'd owe from that year's tips. I haven't forgotten when I heard Donald Trump say those words, no tax on tips. A plethora of memories came back. I thought about how much that would have helped me back then. After giving it some thought, it made me feel positively about the great potential it has for so many American workers. It would make a difference to millions of people. It's one of the best ideas I've heard from someone running for president. It's simple and a great way to help hardworking people. You know who else thought it was a great idea? Kamala Harris. So much so that she took the idea and pretended it was her own. I watched Dana Bash's CNN interview with Kamala Harris, with Tim Walz in tow, and was only slightly curious if Bash would press Kamala about shoplifting Trump's no tax on tips proposal. Of course she didn't. I don't think anyone really believes she would end the tax on tips, though. It's not consistent with her beliefs, what she has said or done. Kamala has shown herself to be anti-worker, She cast the tie-breaking vote to hire 87,000 new IRS agents. That's right, 87,000 new IRS agents. It led to more than 700,000 new audits of workers earning under $75,000 per year. Oh, let's not forget she cast the tie-breaking vote that raised the tax burden, even on families making as little as $20,000 per year. I had the chance to speak with Bruce Lavelle, a friend of Trump's, who also serves as a longtime advisor. Mr. Lavelle had this to say. Watch.
Listen, anytime there's a way to release the burdens, especially in this economy, in this high inflation, to help find a way to put more money in American taxpayers' pocket to help them and their families, to feed their families, it's a win-win. So I think any idea that comes up, not the ideas that show where we need more money to grow the economy, meaning to raise taxes.
I agree with Mr. Lavelle. Reducing taxes on any group of Americans is good. Tipped workers could be a wonderful starting point. President Trump should be flattered that Kamala Harris admits that this is a smart winning strategy. I hope people see through her deception. As I wrote about previously, Kamala and her team are working hard to recreate Kamala, even if that means imitating Trump. Of course, the legacy media, as a part of the deep state machine, are running cover. A Los Angeles Times business columnist weekly did his best to explain away the Harris and Walz appropriation. Take it from a service industry veteran, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Most folks like no taxation on tips and will say so. It's the only reason why Harris pretends to be on board with this idea. People from as far away as Europe have expressed to me that no tax on tips isn't just a good idea. It's fair and the right thing to do.